What's up, weebs? Welcome to this episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. Today we're going to be talking about anime-themed MOCs. What we do on this show is we spotlight MOCs from across the LEGO community to give you ideas for future MOCs, whether they're Bionicle MOCs or just anything in general, really. It's always good to take a look at things that people have made in the community and see if it can give you some ideas. Any kind of MOC that's based off some type of anime episode or series or whatever, that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on today, and you can see a little preview of some of the stuff that's to come, so get excited for those. Let's begin with the very first one today. This is by Tino Pautanen, and this is Evangelion Unit 02. Of course, this is from the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion. So some awesome techniques on this. The first thing that immediately grabbed me was the eye design. So this is a lipstick piece that I think it comes in a variety of different sets, but I think notably it comes from some of the LEGO Friends sets. And what's cool is that the actual sort of piece itself, at the base of it, you can kind of see a little bit of whatever the lipstick color is, and that is being used very effectively here as sort of like a pupil of sorts. You know, you get the nice highlight around the edge of the light bluish gray, but you still see that color peeking out there, and it makes for a perfect eye design. And to see the four kind of lined up like that, it just looks so striking and so cool. It's such a clever part use there, that's for sure. Reasonably easy to come across those lipstick pieces. So certainly a technique you could adapt for your own MOCs, or if you're looking to build a MOC similar to this, it's certainly definitely something to consider. I really love how that looks. Speaking of how things look, I think the overall aesthetic of this MOC is awesome. It's very system heavy, and yes, this is the Bionicle Inspiration series, but I don't know, I feel as Bionicle goes on, there's a lot more system being used in Bionicle MOCs these days, so, don't be afraid to sort of blend the two. But specifically looking at like the upper legs, we can see that there is indeed a Hero Factory armor piece, or your CCBS armor, whatever you want to call it. And that, I don't know, it's just perfectly blended with system. The fact that it sort of transitions up into some just general kind of bricks and tiles, those textures just naturally kind of flow one into the other. And then we can see some of these pieces that come on some of like the modern construction sort of style sets, like your Marvel construction sets, and you even saw some of that stuff with like Exoforce, all sorts of different mechs from Ninjago even. They're relatively common pieces, and it's just such a good piece to be able to blend system and Bionicle style elements, because there's the bricks on the one side and then there's the socket connection on the other. It's just a brilliant piece. So it's nice to see, system and Bionicle being perfectly blended here, and especially in a more subtle way. There's not a lot of Bionicle on this, or construction, whatever you want to call it. It has many names. But man, those pieces just flawlessly transition one into the other. It's really, really nice to see. Even these sort of jutting knees, obviously very accurate to the source material there. But sometimes a more pronounced knee, I think, can just really benefit a MOC, and I think it works well here. Something else I like is the stand on this MOC. The fact that it just has a sort of, kind of black, arm thing, whatever you want to call it there, just to sort of help hold it up. I don't know, maybe this MOC has trouble sort of supporting its own weight. It doesn't look like it would, but certainly something that you often see in sort of, like anime, like action figures and different things, is that they have a stance that you can pose them in more sort of dynamic, unique ways. So like in some of these positions here, you can see him, doing all sorts of crazy things with his legs, and, kind of looking like he's jumping or moving in some, fight scene or some sort of, dynamic action or something cool. And I don't know, I think that's just really clever. If you're building a MOC that is a little bit more posable, give them a stand like this that maybe attaches to the back, or maybe wraps around the waist, or attaches somewhere else that works with the way you're designing it, so that you can have it do sort of crazy kicks and leaps and jumps and other sort of unique, just be in other unique positions and things. It's just a clever idea, and I think it works well specifically on this MOC here. It looks like a pretty sturdy base as well. The fact that he's sort of doubled up some of the like ball and socket connections there. It looks like it would have it'd be able to take a lot of weight, is what I'm trying to say. If you're building something like that, definitely make sure it's sturdy so that it can kind of accomplish its own purposes. Shut up, Facebook messages, I'm recording. Hey, I like that. I like that a lot. On to the next MOC now. This is by Nathan Griffin, and this is... I haven't watched Bleach, so forgive me, but this is from Bleach. This is Yulqua Sither. You'll probably be able to pronounce that much better than I can. But there's some very nice stuff on this one here. It's a digital mock, not a physical one, but that doesn't change anything. It's still pretty cool. It's just different ways of making something. But I specifically like the head design. Anime is known for its crazy hair on a lot of its different characters, specifically in like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that, all sorts of things. But I just like how this hair design looks. It's very sort of like Brickheads inspired in a sense. I mean, it's obviously a very different shape, but when you look at your Brickhead sets, they use a lot of those slope pieces and cheese slopes and other tiles and different things to match the sort of rough shape of your hair and stuff like that. So it gets the job done and it works. But also seeing some of those claws being used as sort of like strands of hair that's sort of just flowing over the face. Very clever design, and it works well. So yeah, I'm sure like me, you have a whole drawer filled with different claw pieces and things because you tend to get good quantities of them with any Lego set that you buy, and they're relatively cheap anyway. So if you don't have a lot, it's easy to get some. But hey, if you're looking to do some sort of hair design, I think that's a very clever way of doing it, and definitely focusing on system. I think that's also a smart move as well because yeah, it's a pretty decent looking hair and head design here. Some of these photos, there's some unique weapons or other sort of like power effects and things, like this image here with the sort of glowing orb and what I believe is like lightsaber rod pieces from the Ultra Build Star Wars sets. It's a bit hard to tell because, again, this is a digital mock, so there may not even be official Lego pieces, or they might have been edited or modified in some fashion. I don't know. But regardless, I'm sure you could repeat those with existing pieces. But, again, different anime, characters and things often have sort of, cool powers and attacks and different things like that. So definitely play around with elements that maybe are translucent in nature or could kind of mimic some of those effects. Because, yeah, it can be fun to build a Bionicle character, but it could also be really fun to imagine how they would fight, what sort of, what their attacks might look like, the weapons that they might have as well. I mean, weapons are certainly also big in anime in that sense. So yeah, have a play around with that sort of stuff, have a think about how that could work, and maybe even take some fun photos like this of them, charging an attack or having a cool weapon or whatever, because it might just tickle your fancy and might look pretty cool, and is certainly in line with anime there. It's pretty cool. I like seeing some of these black wing pieces being used. I think it fits the source material decently well. These, of course, came on the Ender Dragon Minecraft set, in black specifically, but they came in a variety of other sets, whether that's like Castle Dragons or like Viking Dragons as well. There's a lot of times these wings have appeared in many different colors as well. So I think it's always worth noting, I mean, we were speaking about system on the last mock. Take a look at your system sets and see if some of those pieces can be used for Bionicle stuff. Thankfully, those wing pieces have your typical kind of like, axle socket, not socket, but axle kind of connections to them, so that, you could very easily connect it with Technic and Bionicle and stuff. And not every Lego piece will have that necessarily, but, there's other different wing pieces on like, hippogriffs and unicorns and all sorts of crazy things on Lego sets as well. So take a look at Lego sets and see if any of those pieces might apply for any kind of Bionicle character that you might be looking into, because there's often a lot of really nice overlap there. So study those pieces, see if they can help you here, much like they have here on this mock. Very cool. On the torso, I like seeing the your typical kind of fist hand piece that you see on Hero Factory sets, later waves of Bionicle and stuff like that as well. It's a cool piece. Obviously, you typically use it for hands, but we can see on the torso it's being used here, and the fingers are kind of hidden behind the sort of torso armor, so you kind of no longer can necessarily see that it's a fist, which I think is appropriate, because otherwise it looks a bit weird. He's got fists on his chest. It's a bit odd. But the fact that he's kind of hidden some of the notable features of it, now you can just kind of focus on some of the natural kind of like shaping on that piece. And I don't know, to me, it kind of does start to resemble that of, like the muscles or the sort of like definition that you might see on a human chest of sorts. So an interesting way of kind of playing with that piece and kind of hiding less desirable elements of it and focusing on other elements instead. It's a clever way of doing things. I like that a lot. So a cool mock here. Let's move over to, I'm sure, the one you've all been waiting for. It's Chainsaw Man from Chainsaw Man. This is such a cool mock. I mean, that's why I said in the thumbnail, yes, it's Lego. This is one of those awesome mocks where it kind of blurs that line. When you first look at it, you can't quite tell, but it is indeed. I mean, there's beautiful, flawless, like, use of different, like, slope pieces and curved slope pieces to form the pants and the top there. awesome. It's so cool. And I mean, my favorite little detail, I think, is the sort of like rolled up sleeves that he has, kind of building those sort of like almost sort of circles like that, and then repeating them and twisting them in that sense so that it looks like a rolled up sleeve, and you see the sort of like wrinkles in it that are forming. So cool. I think that's also cool too. I mean, obviously those are roll up sleeves, so it makes sense that they would have those sort of like seams and wrinkles or whatever you want to call them. But even kind of the rest of the top sort of has elements of that, and I think it's just the way those pieces have been used. Whereas when you look at the pants, they're a bit smoother, which that's kind of how, a shirt and pants work in the real world. So it's lovely to see that so effectively translated into your plastic Lego bricks there. Those textures have been just beautifully recreated. It's amazing. All the different kind of like chainsaw elements are just sort of using some of these kind of like tread pieces that have appeared in a variety of different colors and a variety of different sets, much like this Hailfire droid set. And then it's being used in conjunction with some of these like turntable pieces, and you actually kind of take the sort of base of it out. And yeah, you can use them very effectively here and get that more unique texture that certainly looks a lot more kind of like chainsaw-like. I don't know, it just works perfectly, and it's a great way of sort of replicating that in Lego. It's awesome. I also love the shoes. These just look super snazzy and super cool. My favorite little detail is this sort of like panel piece that's being used at the top of the shoe there. These have appeared in a variety of different like space sets and a few other kind of like older sets. It's unfortunately an older piece, but it's still a really cool piece. I wish Lego used that a bit more often. But yeah, man, that looks perfect for that sort of like top area of the shoe there. I don't know what you'd call that. I'm not sure of shoe anatomy terms, but yeah, man, that's so unique and so cool. The stand is also very nice, a little bit more simplistic, but just gives it a bit more context, makes it look cool. Some other little quick details that I like, the tie, the fact that it's sort of off on the side there, kind of looks like wind's blowing or he's sort of moving around and the tie is sort of, moving around in the breeze and stuff like that. Yeah, just the decision to kind of put that off on the side there, I think is a smart one and a clever idea for sure. Did I say who built this at the start of the episode? I don't think I did. This is by Redverse, in case I missed that. I feel like I missed that because I got excited by the word Chainsaw Man. Yeah, I love that. I love that decision to make him look a little bit more dynamic by having the tie sort of off to the side there, like it's moving around and all that. Very, very cool. And yeah, just in general, the whole face design seems so accurate to the source material and just looks super, super cool. So yeah, just such an incredible mock. So much cool stuff going on with it. Just mind-blowingly cool. So that's it for some anime-inspired mocks in this episode of the Bionicle Inspiration series. I hope you very much enjoyed seeing them all. And hey, next episode is 270, which means it's a fan-submitted mocks episode. So if you've got some mocks that you've made that you want to see on the show, you can submit them to the submission email that's on your screen. And yeah, you'll be able to maybe see it next episode. Obviously, you can only pick so many, but hey, you got to submit it to be in the running in that sense, Additionally, in the description is links to my own social media, so if you want to check that out, you can check the links in the description to that. And there's also links in the description to the mocks you saw in today's episode, so be sure to maybe comment on these people's builds and let them know what you think of their stuff, and maybe see some of the other things that they've built as well. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Love you tons. Happy building. Bye for now.